Good morning and a warm welcome to all participants to the Cultural Heritage in Action online event. I'm Natalie Guri, I'm Projects and Knowledge Sharing Director at Eurocities, and it's my pleasure to be your moderator for this morning. Cultural Heritage in Action is one of the follow-up actions of the 2018 European Year of Cultural Heritage. Cultural heritage ranks high in the strategic priorities of local and regional authorities. This is one of the main learnings from 18 months of peer learning on cultural heritage for European cities and regions, as part of the Cultural Heritage in Action project funded under the Creative Europe program of the European Union. The project has focused so far on three topics: participatory governance of cultural heritage, adaptive reuse of built heritage, and quality of interventions on cultural heritage. During its first phase, Cultural Heritage in Action had an important impact on capacity building in cultural heritage-led development in European cities and regions. So far, 32 cities and regions are featured in the Cultural Heritage in Action catalogue of good practice. 165 representatives from cities and regions have been involved in peer learning visits, as well as 57 stakeholders and 10 representatives from national and European administrations. I hope you can all hear me well. If it's not the case, I'm just waiting for my colleagues to tell me. Good. So if everything works well, it's now time to take stock of what has been achieved and look towards the future. During our event, we want to present not only what has been achieved so far. I'm saying that, okay, I see that the connection keeps breaking down. That's strange because I'm even on cable and that was all working very well before. Can I ask Pauline? Yeah, I continue. Okay. So I was saying that during our event, we want to present not only what has been achieved so far and what we learned from more than 100 representatives from European cities and regions, but also what to look forward to in the coming month. A large offer of peer learning activities for cities and regions with plenty of opportunities to share and learn from each other. This event will offer you presentations, networking sessions, videos, and panels. We have many distinguished speakers, so please switch off your emails, switch off your phones, so that you can enjoy this event fully. On the technical side, you cannot raise your hand, unfortunately, and ask questions, but you can use the chat to signal any issue or ask a question. The event is recorded, and you will receive the link to the recording with the follow-up email after the event. So no need to take notes. You can fully concentrate and listen to this event. The event will last until 12:30, including the networking sessions. So with no further ado, let's listen to the greetings from Mr. Apostolos Tzitzikostas, who is the president of the European Committee of the Regions and governor of the Central Macedonia region.
Gentlemen, in the last decade, culture and cultural heritage have witnessed a rise in public awareness gaining political importance at the European level, but also specific attention at national, regional, and local levels. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant negative
It seems we're having a problem with the video. I'm checking with my colleagues if we can run again the video who seemed to be frozen. That's probably with this winter, it's too cold. So the video is freeze. If we have a problem with the video, can I get a signal from my colleagues?
Hi, everyone. We are really sorry for that. We just had a very short connection issue, but I will now put the video back on stage again. Thank you very much for your patience.
and gentlemen. In the last decade, culture and cultural heritage have witnessed a rise in public awareness gaining political importance at the European level, but also specific attention at national, regional, and local levels. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant negative impact on the cultural and creative sectors, artists, and their audiences alike. As governor, I notice daily the impact of the pandemic on our previously vibrant cultural and creative sectors in our cities and regions. It is urgent today to recognize to what extent culture is essential for our well-being and what value added our shared cultural heritage means for the future generations of Europeans. It is a key driver for strengthening our European identity. It helps us reinvent and recover and reunite. The cultural sector is also a vital economic sector, a source of jobs and employment, and spillovers to other economic sectors. Therefore, cultural heritage is a key resource and a strategic asset for cities and regions and for their post-pandemic recovery and sustainable development. It must have a prominent place in the discussion on the future of Europe and in the economic relaunch, as stressed in our recent opinion. We will also organize at the beginning of the year a high-level event on cultural diversity, a vital component of our European multidimensional identity. For all these reasons, the European Committee of the Regions is your ally for raising awareness in cities and regions. And we stand ready to join forces with you and with the European Commission and Parliament in support of this specific sector. I look forward to the results of the Cultural Heritage in Action project and welcome the kickoff of its next phase. Ladies and gentlemen, we must step up our joint support for cultural sector and for our invaluable cultural heritage, which provides livelihoods and brings us together, inspires us, and nourishes our souls. I wish you an insightful and fruitful discussion. Thank you.
I am now pleased to give the floor to Ms. Themis Christofidou, who is the European Commission Director General for Education and Culture. Ms. Christofidou will focus on how the EU supports cultural heritage in cities and regions. Ms. Christofidou, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to President Tzitzikostas for his inspiring introduction. Dear colleagues, it's a pleasure to be with you today, even if it's only online. It's not often that we manage to get together with such a diverse audience, gathering cities and regions, cultural and creative sectors, and policymakers. In these difficult times, I appreciate such opportunities even more, even with the constraints of the digital means. In the European Commission, we are proud to be backing the Cultural Heritage in Action project. It demonstrates how cooperation, exchange, and peer learning all help connect people who are passionate about culture for the benefit of our societies. I was inspired by the many good practices included in your catalogue. They deserve to be widely promoted. I also congratulate you for how you turned the COVID-19 constraints into a success. By changing your working methods, you managed to involve a large and active audience in your discussions, and I'm sure this has enriched the outcome we have in front of us today. I would like to highlight two elements today. Firstly, how culture and cultural heritage strengthen the social and economic assets of European regions and cities. And secondly, how culture and cultural heritage can help us deal with the climate crisis. Looking at the social and economic role of culture and cultural heritage first, we cannot bypass the European capitals of culture. Throughout the years, cities have used the title to boost their long-term socioeconomic development. The benefit of the capitals on the local economy and employment rate is impressive. Just look at the recent examples of Aarhus in Denmark and Friesland, the region around Leeuwarden in the Netherlands. Of course, since then, the pandemic hit severely, and it has put cities, including capitals of culture, in a very difficult situation. We all hope that as we go ahead, future capitals of culture will thrive again and inspire European cities and regions to use culture as an integral part of recovery. Another example is the European Heritage Awards, Europa Nostra Awards. These awards, co-funded by Creative Europe program, promote best practices in the conservation and enhancement of cultural heritage. Over their 20 years, the awards have brought major benefits to the winners. Think of greater national and international exposure, increased visitor numbers, and follow-on funding. In fact, the call for the new awards is open right now and until 1st of February 2022. I warmly encourage you to promote it among cultural heritage institutions in your cities and regions. Allow me to also briefly mention the European Year of Cultural Heritage in 2018. It was a success because of the continued support of the cities and regions. It would never have succeeded if we kept it going from Brussels alone. Its legacy lives on through the many actions and projects that were inspired by the year and the momentum it has brought. We're now preparing for another emblematic year, the European Year of Youth 2022. And this is another great opportunity for us all, and a chance to think of ways to bring culture and cultural heritage closer to the generations that will be their guardians for the future. And now to my second point. The time has come to unlock the potential of culture and cultural heritage for climate. Our societies need a positive boost to re-emerge from the crisis stronger and more united than before. The role of communities in reshaping their cities is essential to guide this transition. And this is precisely the idea behind the new European Bauhaus. It is an environmental, economic, and cultural project. It combines design, sustainability, accessibility, affordability, and investment to help deliver the European Green Deal. We need cultural and creative sectors to be a strong part of the new European Bauhaus movement. And we also need the creative potential of cities and regions. You can all help us revisit the way we shape the physical spaces we live in. Dear participants, a last word about money. The COVID-19 pandemic has devastated the sector, and the recovery will not be easy. From the very beginning of the pandemic, the European Commission has taken measures to try support culture as much as it could. We did so through the Creative Europe and through the Erasmus Plus programs. And we did so through other less culture-specific instruments, the Coronavirus Response Investment Initiative, the SURE initiative, and the flexibility granted to member states under state aid rules. Our efforts continue in the long term with the 2021-2027 budget and programs, complemented by grants and loans under Next Generation EU, and in particular the Recovery and Resilience Facility. We can now see specific objectives related to culture within cohesion funds. Moreover, the Creative Europe budget has seen an unprecedented increase. Between now and 2027, more than 2.4 billion will be allocated to cultural and creative organizations and artists. And for the first time, cultural and creative sectors are now fully integrated into the European Programme for Research. Cluster 2 of Horizon Europe will focus on the potential of cultural heritage, arts and cultural and creative sectors as drivers of sustainable innovation and a European sense of belonging. Under the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT, we propose the new Knowledge and Innovation Community, the KIC, to support innovation ecosystems in the cultural and creative sectors and industries. This new community will unite cultural and creative organizations from business, higher education, and research, the so-called knowledge triangle, into a pan-European innovation ecosystem. Other EU programs will also be able to support culture, including Erasmus+, InvestEU, Digital Europe, the Citizenship, Equality, Rights and Values Programme. To navigate all these various sources of funding and easily access funding opportunities, I'm proud of my team in DG ACT that just launched a new funding guide. It is called Culture EU, and it is a user-friendly interactive online tool featuring all EU funding opportunities for the cultural and creative sectors. It is therefore there for everyone to look at and for everyone to benefit from. Therefore, I count on you to go and have a look. And then please relay the information about the possibilities for European support to cities, regions, and cultural actors. We want these opportunities to also reach those who may never have thought of applying, but have great ideas and projects up their sleeve. Commissioner Gabriel is very keen that this tool becomes very useful to the cultural actors in every part of Europe. Dear friends, the potential of culture and creative and cultural heritage and of cities and regions to build stronger, more inclusive and greener societies is huge. The potential of European funding to support those working with culture and cultural heritage is also more than evident. The Culture Heritage in Action project we're celebrating today is a case in both for both. I look forward to today's discussions, and I'm eager to see many more inspiring projects in the years to come. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Christophidou, for your very inspiring opening speech, for your support. And I can promise that we will disseminate the funding guide that your team has produced. It's surely a very good tool for all cities and regions and local stakeholders. So thanks a lot for this, and thank you for your time. We will now travel to Rotterdam to learn how the city of Rotterdam focuses on cultural heritage to promote local identity.
Rotterdam is an amazing city. We have lots of interesting architecture because we lost, of course, a lot of our architecture after the Second World War. And next to that, it's a very multicultural city.
I think it's a city where if you have a good idea, you can realize it. So it's a city which gives you chances to reach your goals.
So Dig It Up is a cultural, it's a cultural heritage lab in the city, and it collects sort of hidden gems from different sources.
So we have all kinds of projects. Really, the funny thing is the only criteria is that it's in Rotterdam, and it can go from gay history to architecture to pedal cars. It's just a wide spectrum. And that's also a really fun thing. We noticed that how smaller the subject is, the more impact it has, because then it starts meaning a lot for a lot of people, because these stories haven't been told before.
Dig It Up is a partner which finds its existence in digging heritage stuff from attics and cellars in normal houses. But they try to involve the citizen of Rotterdam in finding interesting stuff around themes.
It has a much closer bond with the city than the City Archive does. The City Archive has a little bit of distance to it, and Dig It Up is much more approachable. So Dig It Up does active projects. It goes out and does calls to action in regards to collecting heritage, things that people have in their attic that they mightn't have thought about, different aspects of culture that we would not have a direct line into as a government organisation.
I think a thing you notice is that if you're looking at recorded history, is that like the personal stories, the stories of the people themselves and the material, it's not being added to the archives. And with that, also part of that is writing history and enabling the public to be co-authors in this process. It really gives so much value. And also sometimes you have this idea that heritage is boring, but it's not. And actually, but it can become boring if the only narrative you're taking is that of the official stories, of the official happenings. But actually by making them co-authors, it becomes way more interesting.
I think when we talk about heritage, people tend to give you a very bored look. Because heritage sounds a bit everything that's old, things that belong in the past.
But I think that most people don't realize that heritage is, or cultural heritage is very much about the present as well. So cultural heritage to me are those memories, experiences both from the past and the present that we want to safeguard and preserve and make accessible for future generations.
I think it's important to record people's lived experiences because lived experience are history. They become history the next day, in a couple of weeks. So the quicker we can get to taking that up and to recording that, the better. We miss a lot of chances. You miss 100% of the chance you don't take. And if you don't provide structures for people to record life during Corona, to record Black Lives Matter, to record LGBT history, to record the changing history of the harbour, to record newcomers into the city, to record different cultural events, different types of community events, different celebrations. If you don't record them, we lose them.
One last thing, I would like to say, heritage belongs to us all.
Thanks, Rotterdam, for sharing this good initiative, very inspiring initiative with us. You will have the opportunity to ask questions about, what Rotterdam does, because Marie-Claire Dungerveld, that you saw in the video, will be part of the panel at 11 later today. But now let's go to our first panel. We will have 3 presentations, and then it will be the occasion for you to ask questions. So do feel free to use the chat to ask questions. I will monitor the questions and I will take them after the 3 presentations. So we will start with our first speaker, Marcos Ros-Sampere, who's member of the European Parliament and who is part of the Committee on Culture and Education member. Marcos Ros-Sampere will speak about the role of culture and cultural heritage as a catalyst for a sustainable recovery in European cities and regions. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Natalie, for giving me the floor, and thank you very much to all the speakers on this panel and to this conference in general for dealing with this topic, which is so important for all of us who have such a deep sensitive towards heritage, culture, and its importance for the European Union. I would like to thank also Ms. Marie-Pierre for giving us the direct perspective and examples from her city, Lille, which I really know is really involved with their heritage and its promotion and conservation, both as a member of Parliament and as European citizen, but above all, because my training as an architect, I am aware of the importance of heritage and its conservation, which supports dissemination and contributes to enhance European values. And this is now more important than ever. At a time of sustainable recovery, cultural heritage acts as a catalyst to promote European values and facilitate green, digital, and social transitions. The European Union has shown its commitment to culture and cultural heritage through the adoption of a new European agenda for culture and its implementation through a new work plan for culture, whose first priority is sustainability in cultural heritage. Cultural heritage appears in 2 of the 3 axes of this new agenda published on 2018. On the one hand, on the social dimension, protecting and promoting Europe's cultural heritage as a shared resource, and also in the external dimension, reinforcing the cooperation on cultural heritage through projects that protect and rehabilitate damaged heritage. In addition, to the Creative Europe, initiatives such as the European Capitals of Culture, the European Heritage Label, and the European Year of Cultural Heritage are projects that put cultural heritage at the center of the European Union policies. This year, Kaunas in Lithuania, Izur-Alzette in Luxembourg, and Novi Sad in Serbia will have the opportunity to carry the responsibility and the privilege of being the capitals of culture, cities with a diversity and rich heritage worthy of this annual title. Of course, in all these initiatives that I have mentioned, the European Parliament has played a key role in its involvement in the promotion and protection of culture and specifically of cultural heritage. First of all, we must not forget that thanks to the pressure, the push from the European Parliament, the budget for Creative Europe, the European Union's reference program for culture, was doubled in the negotiations for the new multi-annual financial framework. In this respect, we, the MEPs, we have always played a key role, and thanks to the work of the CULT committee and the involvement of many of its members, culture will continue to increase its presence in European Union policies. Perhaps it is important here to highlight one of the reports adopted by Parliament this year in the relation to cultural heritage on achieving an effective policy legacy for the European Year of Cultural Heritage. Given the success of the European Year of Cultural Heritage, the European Parliament considers it necessary to give continuity to the European cooperation structures and to identify those areas of action that require more attention. The report identifies education and vocational training, the digital dimension of heritage, as well as the area of sustainability and boosting the economic potential of heritage as the main strategic axis that should guide the legacy of the European Year of the Cultural Heritage. The members reiterate the need to strengthen the new approach to heritage through an integrated approach, giving equal treatment to tangible, intangible, natural, and digital heritage, and addressing these dimensions as interconnected, and to provide this initiative with the necessary funding. Perhaps another project that I could bring for us today, and in which I have been very involved in the last months, and I will be more involved in the next months, is the new European Bauhaus. The truth is that for me, it is an honor and a real coincidence that in my first legislative term as a member of the Parliament, I have had the pleasure of working on this project. And why not? This new European Bauhaus, taking the right decisions, can lead to a new European renaissance, as I am sure that Snezka from Europa Nostra will explain later. A change of paradigm, a new way of thinking, of inhabiting our spaces, of recovering our heritage, and of building our future. As you may already know, last month we had several news regarding this project. On the one hand, the first European Bauhaus Prizes ceremony was held, where numerous projects across Europe were awarded in several categories. I have to see here, I was very proud that there were many Spanish projects among the finalists and winners. But in addition, last September, the European Commission launched its official communication on the new European Bauhaus, detailing its intentions for this initiative more precisely, and on the other hand, initiating a formal dialogue with the rest of European institutions. And cultural heritage is still very present in this document. The Commission addresses this in one of the thematic axes of the new European Bauhaus, and there are only 4 thematic axes. One of them is called Regaining a Sense of Belonging. In this sense, cultural assets, in particular heritage, arts, local craft, know-how, linked to the natural assets as well as social assets, make a place unique. Cultural life, arts, events, concerts are opportunities for connection and social interaction, the binding element that create a sense of belonging. And here also have a particular relevance the principles of the quality of built environment, and of valuing it through education in order to learn to appreciate it. every time and everybody, when visit a special place, should have the right to really appreciate its beauty and especially quality. With regard to this communication, the European Parliament has already set to work, and work will very shortly begin on the drafting on an own initiative report, in which informally I can inform you that I will have the good fortune to be able to participate as rapporteur from the Committee of Culture, Youth, Education, the Media and Sport. In my view, and much of the importance of cultural heritage and its presence in our lives is very closely related to the built environment. Much of it is found directly in our cities, our squares, public spaces, and in our buildings. And this is how it is reflected in the latest report from the OMC group on high quality architecture and built environment for everyone. This new report provides recommendations to ensure high quality architecture and built environment, and contains many references related to the importance of cultural heritage, its presence and preservation. The cultural aspects relate to preserving resources by high quality design. Preservation and improvement of the existing built environment is the best strategy to avoid wasting resources. Buildings that are socially and culturally appreciated have longer lifespans and inspire generations of owners and users to preserve the resources invested in them. What we build or retrofit today should aspire to become the cultural heritage of the future. This report underlines also that most European cities are already fully built and developed. This shifts the main task of architects and urban planners to reuse, conversion, and eventually extension, repair, or renovation of the existing building stock rather than building new structures. When cultural heritage forges positive relation with new buildings, it is often better preserved and protected. These and many other messages are what I try to bring wherever I go, wherever I intervene. And I think that here I could mention another particularity, that of my city, the city of Murcia. As I imagine some people will know, this city is full of cultural heritage, both discovered and undiscovered. And I think that part of its activity linked to Eurocities, as a city that it is part of its network, should follow the way to have a solid cultural movement around all its heritage. And I am ending this speech, and also from my city, they are carrying out such interesting projects from my city and my region. It still misses one more thing, that is architecture, design, and heritage are directly reflected in a new European Bauhaus project. Finally, in close relation to this, I would like to make one last reflection. The new European Bauhaus comes at a crucial moment for Europe. At a time of transition towards economic recovery, Green Deal, digitalization, and social cohesion. And I am a firm believer that architecture and cultural heritage can unite all these concepts and put itself at the service of citizens to fully improve their quality of life. We must seize this opportunity to achieve a real transformation of our built environment. And as I always say, architecture can change our lives, but only good architecture and good urban planning can improve them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marcos Sampere, for really highlighting what the new European Bauhaus can do and can help in cities and regions. Please, participants, do write your questions to Marcos Sampere in the chat if you have any. It's a fantastic opportunity to ask questions about the new European Bauhaus. So now I will welcome our second speaker, Marie-Pierre Bresson, who's Lille Deputy Mayor for Culture and International Relations. Marie-Pierre Bresson will speak about cultural heritage for cohesion, well-being and sustainable development in European cities. Marie-Pierre, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I've got little problems for connecting, but I think it's okay now. So thank you very much for the Eurocity network to invite me for this conference, because of course it is very important, as you said just previously, with the Bauhaus program. But as you know, Lille was European Capital of Culture in 2004. And that was a way to renew, in fact, the city and the metropolitan area. And we imagined this huge event. It was probably one of the biggest one in Europe, as a way to have a huge urban planning transformation. In fact, those two goals were combined. So first of all, the city of Lille is placing culture at the heart of its project, of its political project, because we are convinced that access to artistic creation is a factor of emancipation, of course, and that, of course, the society needs culture for people and for the landscape, for the urban landscape as well. So we consider that our heritage, and especially our industrial heritage, because as you know, northern France is a huge place for ancient industries, especially textile industry in the city of Lille. And this is a very strong landscape inside the city. So the aim of the municipality was to enhance this cultural heritage and to make it become a very lively place. So that's, I will show you some examples so you can see what we've done from the beginning in 2004, and it's still very, very lively today. So we decided to change ancient buildings and brownfields to cultural centers, training centers, eco districts, and I will show you two concrete examples. I think you've got slides. Maybe, yeah. This is the first one. As you know, at the end of the 19th century, Lille experienced a huge industrial development in textiles and metallurgy. And the place you see on your screen is called Maison Folie, which is a new place for cultural activity. Well, it's a crossroads for many activities, in fact, and it has been renewed for the European Capital of Culture. And now you can see inside this ancient factory a meeting point with regional, national, international artistic teams, association, inhabitants of the neighborhood, which is very important. We want this place to be a crossroad between very high-level artistic proposition and a very close neighborhood, which is, we think, the best way to have this very lively place. In the metropolitan area, there are 3 Maison Folie that has been renewed for this European Capital of Culture inside Lille, but in a very close municipality beside the city, in Roubaix, in Tourcoing, and also in the Belgium, in Belgium as well. So while since 2004, there were 12 brownfields and industrial manufacturing that became these cultural centers. So this Maison Folie, which is called Maison Folie Oisem, is located in a working class district. It has been rehabilitated. It is 5,000 square meters. And we say this is our flagship for cultural facilities. It's a place for creation, dance, theater, performance, cabaret, and so on, distribution, exhibition, live show, festival, and it combines popular culture and, as I said, very high-level artistic ambition. It is also dedicated to young public, because twice a year there are 2 festivals called Maximum, where we host festival for the very young public, because we are very engaged in Lille for artistic education for the children. So you can see the many kind of activities you have in this place, outside and inside, of course. The second example is called Palais Rameau. It's going to be a new place because the Palais Rameau is in a new renovation program with the city of Lille and 3 schools in the Catholic University of Lille, and the building will be connected to the campus, as you might see it on the photo. It has been built in the late 90s. It's an historical monument, of course, and it's a legacy from Charles Rameau, who was a botanist, and he said that this legacy was to be kept in the botanical sector. So as we are developing urban agriculture, we decided with the municipality and those schools, high schools, to renew this building in order to act this botanical sector for the new goals of the sustainable city, which is, as you know, having a good agriculture, of course, and alimentation. This is a very ambitious project because it cost 20 million euros, supported by the region, the metropolitan area, the city of Lille, the Department of the North, the Public Bank of Investment, and the Ministry of Culture. The building is 3,000 square meter, and with 6,000 square meter of surrounding gardens. You see the inside of the Palais Rameau on the photo. The project will be supported by various architectural and landscape architects. And to keep the appearance of the late 19th century, but of course to renew everything inside and outside. So the spaces will be open to the public for conference and exhibition, with small restaurants, with very flexible spaces. And the idea is that the building can be transformed according to the event that will take place inside. And there will be, of course, more confidential spaces for working or teaching. But the project has been initiated in 2018, and it will be finished in 2023, hopefully. And it will allow us to have inside the cultural heritage, of course, as we mentioned it, and the new project for sustainable city. So those 2 projects are some of the examples of our local investment in the cultural heritage. Of course, we love this heritage, as you may imagine, and we are trying to develop some special programs so we can host new publics in those places, so that people can see it's their heritage, of course. And we are convinced that it's our duty not only to restore, but to invite and show our cultural heritage for the new generation, because the mix of the generation is very important. And we think that brownfield, that using the brownfield and using the heritage, the cultural heritage, is a way to be sure that we can appropriate our own city. So I am glad to invite you to the next cultural forum in Lille, so you can see all those places by your own. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marie-Pierre Bresson, for all those very inspiring examples and for your invitation to indeed the next Eurocities Culture Forum that will take place in Lille. Our third speaker is Snežka Kwadvlik-Michalovic, who will represent the voice of the heritage sector. Snežka is the Europa Nostra Secretary General, and she will be speaking about, local authorities and how they can provide better tailored support to heritage stakeholders. Snežka, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nathalie, and good morning to you all from Brussels. What a pleasure to share the panel with such distinguished colleagues and speakers. I must say, delighted to hear about this project of the Palais Rameau in Lille, and to see that there will be a renaissance of a 19th century beautiful building, and it will be sort of that life will be given back to that place through young people and through the university world. So it's just example, a perfect illustration what Europa Nostra is calling for. We are calling for a new European renaissance, and we believe that in sort of by giving new life and putting cultural heritage at the heart of our recovery and the future of Europe is the way forward. And that was the sort of message that we have passed in September when we had our, fortunately not online but physical summit in Venice. And I'm delighted that the second panelist, Marcos, was with us in Venice. Marcos, who is the forceful voice at the European Parliament, calling for indeed understanding. Well, I love that final sentence, Marcos, that you are always saying. It's the good architecture, good urban planning that can improve our life, and that is something that is wonderful to have you as an architect in the European Parliament and to lead and to rally various members of the European Parliament also in support of the new European Bauhaus project, and more generally in support of understanding how central is cultural heritage for our cities, our regions, our citizens and their communities. So thank you for organizing this kickoff for the second phase of the Culture in Action program. I'm delighted to be here, the sort of the speaker on behalf of one of the proud partners of these projects, of this consortium, and also on behalf of my colleague Lorena Aldana, who has been working on this project on our behalf. I want to thank other members of this consortium, of course you, Eurocities as the lead partners, but also the other three partners, Architects Council of Europe. We have been working also closely with them in the context of the new European Bauhaus creative, the consortium, how it's called, the collective. I'm searching for the word for the new European Bauhaus collective, and also KEA. We work with them also with another project, Elucidare and Erin. So it's really always shows that l'union fait la force, and when you put together dedicated partners and with such a strong support from the European Commission. I was delighted to hear very forceful introduction of Director General Themis Christophidou and also the words of the President of the Committee of the Regions. I somehow said to myself, all what we were dreaming for or calling for during the European Year of Cultural Heritage, the famous mainstreaming of cultural heritage, and calling for a lasting legacy of that year. This morning I had a feeling, yes, it's working. It's working. You can see that the President of the Council, the Committee of the Regions, is really fully embraced those messages, and we have the highest political support from the Committee of the Regions and the sort of the dedication of the the Commission to mainstream it, and it's fantastic to see with the leadership also of Commissioner Gabriel how since then in the last 3 years cultural heritage has been really everywhere present. So we have a moment, we have a momentum, and with this project Cultural Heritage in Action we can really and tap into fantastic experiences and also commitment of local authorities and cities and regions. So as you can see, I just could not share that enthusiasm with you, and just call all of us to work much more with the representatives of cities like Lille or Rotterdam, of many, in fact every single city and region in Europe. So and why we as Europa Nostra believe, as sort of heritage stakeholders believe that this is so important, because of course it is the cities and the region, they're so much closer to communities, and they're a perfect relay for building the case for cultural heritage also before national governments or European institutions. And so locally and regionally elected representatives can draw on cultural heritage as a resource to build bridges across borders, foster well-being. I think that word well-being has been mentioned several times, but several people, and guarantee a good quality of life. The word quality also extremely important. And that's why we have the European Union should empower cities and regions to deploy the power of cultural heritage as a key driver for an inclusive, sustainable, but also beautiful. Marcos knows that I love the fact that the new European Bauhaus speaks about beauty. So beauty being a value that Europe should be standing for. And I think that's something that with cities and regions and with the parliament, we want to sort of really get that message implemented in the best possible way. We are delighted as Europa Nostra to have contributed to this project also with the extraordinary examples of winners of our awards. Director General Themis Christophidou mentioned already the European Heritage Awards, Europa Nostra Awards. So we are delighted that in that special Cultural Heritage in Action catalog of good practices, the 32 success stories, there were also many initiatives selected among the winners of our award. And I'll just mention the Cultural Community Mapping Initiative in Val Grande National Park in Italy, from which we will hear a testimony later today. The rehabilitation of the Cultural Palace in Blaj in Romania. I was delighted to visit that place a few years ago, to adopt the project, to adopt a monument project in Finland, the digitization project Hermes in Greece, and last but not least, Elsenia, ancient olive trees in Spain. All these are our proud winners who are also included in the catalog of good practices. And as the Director General mentioned, we also want to call whoever is in audience and listening to us to look into the call for new applications, deadline 1st of February. Don't miss the opportunity to submit your hopefully winning project to our awards. Allow me also to share with you some thoughts on how local authorities and heritage stakeholders can closely cooperate to ensure a win-win interaction. I think many of these good practices that were presented or they're in the catalog are, without that interaction, that win-win interaction, we can't really have a lasting impact and a lasting success. So firstly, we have to put in place participatory and people-centered approaches that involve the public sector, private stakeholders as well, and civil society alike. And a perfect example is the Adopt a Monument scheme by the Pirkanmaa Regional Museum in Finland, which hosted also a Cultural Heritage in Action peer learning visit last May. And that project features in the catalog of good practices. The program consists of maintenance and preservation of archaeological sites and historical buildings by groups of volunteers or adopters. It can be a community, an association, a company, or a public entity, such as a school. Adopters oversee the management of the appointed heritage sites, monitor its condition, study its history, and organize events to open it up for the community. I think that Lorena will in the chat share with the audience the link to that project in order that whoever is interested can learn a little bit more. But this is a wonderful concept, and I think several speakers also said that heritage belongs to us all. And if this is true, then also we should have confidence that involving such sort of volunteer groups of adopters of monuments will in fact be or they can be an guardian angels of our monuments, and that they will play a very helpful role in ensuring the well-being of the community and the right interaction between the community and the heritage. And then secondly, what we can do, we can set up flexible management models which involve public authorities and local associations. And there we need the business and private sector to be on board as well. We need to foster public-private partnerships and investments and to forge a strategic alliance between the business community and the heritage ecosystem. And there I want to give you, again, an example. And that is the ancient olive trees of the Territorio Senia project, also one of the cultural heritage in action good practices, a proud winner of Europa Nostra. And I think Lorena again will share the link in the chat that people can learn more about that project. This project was born as a response to the high concentration of extraordinarily beautiful ancient olive trees in an area covering 3 different autonomous communities and 27 municipalities in Spain. And there was a need to preserve this important cultural, historical landscape, agricultural and environmental heritage. So in a sense, these ancient olive trees were connecting all these various municipalities and autonomous communities. And that's led to the Mancomunidad Taula del Senia, a local public entity formed by 27 town council to join forces with the Territorio Senia Association. And together, the public and private sectors are conserving all the ancient olive trees of the territory and have made the initiative a sustainable and resilient practice. As you can see, I love this project. The idea that ancient olive trees sort of break the barriers between administrations. This is a perfect example of what is the power of our heritage for building bridges and connecting communities. And so the ancient trees have been mapped in inventories and are being protected. Areas for visitors have been developed, property owners, oil mills, and gastronomy and tourism actors consume and promote the certified olive oil. It's indeed a real win-win situation when you get everyone to work together. Dear colleagues, Europa Nostra and the Cultural Heritage in Action partners strongly believe that cultural heritage is an invaluable component for a heritage-led transformation of Europe's society, economy, and environment. And for this reason, we wish to share with you also a call. Let's indeed not only dream, but realize a new heritage deal for Europe. We need to revitalize our vulnerable inner cities and develop our regions through heritage-related actions. Well-placed investments in heritage sites and areas can help lift neighborhoods from poverty and increase social cohesion and inclusion. And cultural-based solutions also can bring the European Green Deal and the new European Bauhaus closer to Europe's cities and regions. In short, cultural heritage contributes greatly to all strategic priorities of the EU. Many of you know that I like to say that it's not just a sector, so much more than a sector. It is a vector to achieve all those priorities. And to promote such a new heritage deal for Europe, we need champions at all levels of governments. And above all, we need visionary mayors and deputy mayors of European cities and regional heritage leaders. This is why our project is so important, to bring together local and regional authorities and stakeholders who already embrace heritage as a catalyst for positive change and who are ready to connect with colleagues all around Europe to champion the role of cultural heritage to improve the quality of our life and our living environment. And cities and regions across Europe have always been at the forefront of culture-led development. And let us therefore capitalize on this energy, commitment, and knowledge to further consolidate a pan-European network of heritage professionals, volunteers, and supporters. So we count on all of us, and you count on us to deliver on this ambition.
Thank you very much, Snezka. I'm very impressed by your energy and passion and commitment. Despite the fact we're online, I think it transpires the screen. So it's, fantastic. Thank you for, the energy that you gave right in the middle of the event. Now it's time for questions. I see one in the chat already for Marcos. It's a question from Anna Lira Sepanen. The question is, how do you see the value of historical architecture connecting with the modern? A vast question, Marcos. I don't know if you want to say a few words in response.
Yes, of course. I think that we have to be able to combine both types of architecture in an urban context. I think we have to put up in the value the historical architecture, our heritage, but not in the sense of only protecting them and involving in a non-touchable heritage. We have to give a new sense of the heritage, the cultural heritage of our built heritage, and put in the new uses that the modern life needs. We have to incorporate heritage to our modern life. If don't, we will only have ruins or museums of cultural heritage, but the main goal is to try to incorporate into our modern lives the use of cultural heritage and historical architecture. And the only way to do that is try to connect ancient and modern architecture.
Thank you very much. Very clear and short answer. I don't know if there are other questions. I'm looking at the chat. If not, I would like to really thank Snezka. Yes, you have a question?
I just wanted to add to what Marcos just said, that with regards to that relationship between sort of historical aspect of our living environment and a modern aspect, to draw the attention to an extremely important document, the Davos Declaration on High Quality Baukultur. And perhaps Lorena can share the link in the chat. This is really this document gives a sort of in a more detailed answer to this question, to say indeed that there is no contradiction between the two. That should not be. Of course, often there is, and people who are dealing with the heritage protection and the others who are dealing with contemporary architecture, often for too long we have been living separate lives. And I think this is now with also this Davos process and with the new European Bauhaus process, this is a wonderful opportunity that we say that it is all our cities are a combination of our historical environment, and of course they continue to develop and contemporary creations, and that the two can work in harmony. and coexist in harmony, but it requires also the contemporary architecture to be respectful, much more respectful than perhaps it has been in the past, of the historical context of our cities and regions. So I invite people to be inspired by that process, and so I know that with Marcos, with the European Parliament, we will be further always carrying that flag very, very high, the high quality Baukultur for the future of Europe.
Thank you both for this, detailed answer to the question that Anna had. I think that closes, our panel. I would like to really thank a lot our three speakers for all these explanations, for the passion, for the energy, and the very clear presentations they made. A huge, applause to the three of you. And we will now, after this panel, travel to Valgrande and see a video on how Valgrande focuses on empowering communities through local heritage.
Parlare di comuniterre per noi è diventato normale, naturale, anche se comuniterre è un termine che non esiste, perché è un neologismo, nel dizionario non c'è. Per noi e anche a livello europeo con il suo contraltare common lands invece è un nuovo termine e significa comunità e territorio. Due concetti molto importanti che di fatto sottointendono tutta la portata del progetto.
Il Parco Nazionale della Val Grande è l'area wilderness completamente selvaggia più estesa delle Alpi. Territorio di circa 15.000 ettari che parte dal Lago Maggiore, quindi dall'entroterra verbanese fino all'Ossola. I comuni del parco sono 13, 10 sono i comuni che riguardano le terre di mezzo. Sono i comuni che si collocano nella fascia che va da 0 a 800 metri e partono da Urano e arrivano fino a Trontano. Questi territori, come tutto il territorio del parco, sono pieni di segni dell'uomo che ci sono all'interno dei nostri paesi e anche all'interno degli alpeggi, un tempo abitati o oggi in parte quasi completamente disabitati. Quindi segni che riguardano il patrimonio immateriale, quindi la storia, la cultura, le tradizioni, ma anche il patrimonio materiale, quindi gli edifici storici, le chiese, i lavatoi, i forni, gli alpeggi. Questo territorio è in parte ben conservato grazie al lavoro dei cittadini, in parte da recuperare o recuperato con alcuni interventi che il parco ha fatto in questi anni. La sfida è quella di non perdere questa memoria, di non perdere la memoria del nostro territorio e di non perdere la memoria delle tradizioni delle nostre genti.
Comuniterre o Common Lands in Europa e in inglese è il progetto che è stato riconosciuto nell'anno 2020 all'interno del catalogo di buone pratiche da parte del Cultural Heritage in Action. Proprio quest'anno abbiamo l'occasione di ospitare una visita, una cosiddetta peer visit, cioè un apprendimento tra pari. E questa occasione è assolutamente fondamentale perché quando vengono degli scambi, delle aperture, certamente la possibilità di apprendere e di coevolvere diventa maggiore. Siamo stati individuati nell'ambito di un tema fondamentale che è quello della governance partecipata e quindi anche dell'attivazione del patrimonio che ne consegue. È la popolazione che è stata coinvolta di questi 10 piccoli comuni per mappare, raccontare una storia, un'identità che però non è un patrimonio culturale ingessato alla memoria e quindi lontano, ma diventa il mezzo per proiettarsi nel futuro e per condividere dei percorsi insieme.
Comuniterre è un progetto che nasce nell'ambito della Carta Europea del Turismo Sostenibile, è un percorso partecipato che ha avuto riconoscimento a livello europeo dall'Associazione Europea dei Parchi. Comuniterre è un progetto civico ed è un progetto partecipato. Diciamo che è un progetto civico perché ci siamo rivolti alla civitas, ci siamo rivolti alla comunità locale, ai cittadini. È un progetto partecipato perché della partecipazione, con la partecipazione abbiamo costruito una prospettiva di azione e di lavoro complessiva. Questo ha consentito di mettere a punto una consapevolezza tra i cittadini, una consapevolezza che è diventata anche progettualità, prendersi cura del proprio patrimonio.
Comuniterre è un progetto che la Fondazione Comunitaria del Verbano Cusi Ossola non poteva non approvare, non fare proprio. È un progetto che vede le persone di una comunità di montagna unirsi per riscoprire le proprie origini, il proprio passato e farne una sfida per il futuro. Il passato e il futuro passano attraverso il presente di questa comunità che riscopre se stessa e ci dà un esempio straordinario di cosa voglia dire mettersi insieme, fare squadra in una realtà di montagna che oggi vive lo spopolamento, che si sente periferia abbandonata, ma da questo si esce accettando la sfida del futuro. Noi come fondazione questo dobbiamo fare, aiutare la comunità che crede in se stessa.
A huge thank you to Valgrande for this inspiring video. Now we will move to our second panel on trends and surprises from cultural heritage in action. And I will give the floor and the moderation now to Julie Hervé, who's policy advisor for culture at Eurocities. Julie, floor is yours.
Good morning, Natalie, and all colleagues around. So it's my pleasure now to go a little bit more in details around Cultural Heritage in Action. What is the project exactly? You've been hearing a lot about what cities and regions are doing to support cultural heritage. So now it's my turn to explain what we did and what we'll be doing in the coming years. And I also have 3 guests with us who have been involved in the first part of the project. So from different perspectives, they will share their learnings. I will share some slides with you. Yeah, next one, please. Yeah. Yes, and we'll start by recapping very quickly because we're running out of time, what cities and regions is exactly, what cultural heritage for cities and regions is exactly. So Cultural Heritage in Action, it's a 3-year peer learning program for cities, regions, and stakeholders that started in 2020. It is a follow-up action of the European Year of Cultural Heritage. It's completely financed by the Creative Europe program of the European Commission. And it is all about cities and regions learning with each other and from each other. So what have we done? You've been hearing about good practices and a catalog. So yes, we have selected through an open call over 32 good practices that are grouped in a catalog that is available online. And we will share the link in the chats. We have also organized 10 peer learning visits hosted online, unfortunately, because this was, of course, pandemic time. 10 thematic peer learning visits attended by over 250 participants. Next slide. Here is an overview of showing key figures of cultural heritage in action. The good practices, you've heard about them. The online peer learning visits, we will come back to them in a minute. We have also produced a series of videos. You saw extracts from 2 of them, but there are many more thematic videos that will inspire you. We will also share links online. We will also, at the end of the event, share and launch with you a brand new web publication where you can find more information on the findings of the project. Next slide. What have we focused on? 3 topics so far: participatory governance of cultural heritage, adaptive reuse of heritage buildings, and quality of interventions on cultural heritage. And my colleagues will then explain you that we will focus on different topics from January on. Next slide. I wanted to share this slide because I mentioned 3 topics on which we focused, but those 3 topics are very much connected. And through this slide, that represents an iceberg, so cultural heritage as an iceberg. So you see the top part, the visible one, but the one below the water really shows the connections between cultural heritage and a very wide range of local and regional policies. Urban regeneration, supporting the creative economy, supporting entrepreneurship and jobs, but also quality of life. We mentioned it already a couple of times, including links with health, education, and boosting people's confidence. Cultural heritage also has a very clear connections with city and regions attractiveness. So what we really saw in the first 2 years of the project is that the traditional links between cultural heritage, tourism, and culture and the economy have really expanded, and that cultural heritage is more and more connected to other policies. Next slide. Here are now a couple of trends that we have witnessed during the first 2 years of cultural heritage and that we will discuss with our panel members in a minute. So the first lesson for us as organizers of cultural heritage in action is very clear. There is a huge appetite from local and regional authorities and from policymakers to learn from each other. They have different challenges depending on their local context, but they develop solutions that are adapted to their local context and that can be shared, copied, not copied and pasted, but copied and adapted to other cities and regions. The second lesson, I would say that cultural heritage is a crucial resource for local and regional development. It ranks very high and even higher than before in the strategic priorities of cities and regions. And this translates into strong political support and also through heavy financial investments in cultural heritage. We also witnessed that sustainable development in cultural heritage is increasingly considered by cities and regions when planning their policies and activities. And I think the examples from Lille went into that direction. Another key trend is cross-sectoral cooperation inside local and regional administrations. Those cross-sectoral cooperation are multiplying beyond the traditional links with tourism and culture. We see that cultural heritage policies and projects are increasingly connected to other territorial policies, and in particular with social inclusion. If you look at the videos that we have produced, you will see that most of the examples that we have selected have a strong link with inclusion. Another trend that we witness is the development of new working methods as local authorities are increasingly joining forces with local stakeholders and with citizens. We saw in the Rotterdam video a very good example of the City Archive joining forces with a grassroots organization. Also, we see that new local networks of stakeholders are developing. These can be set up and supported by cities and regions, or they can grow organically. Such networks are key to develop strong local policies that embrace diverse know-how and experiences. Another trend is around adaptive reuse of heritage buildings, which is definitely not only for new cultural uses. We see that heritage buildings are also increasingly used to host businesses, host shared working or living spaces, and are new meeting points for citizens. And this leads us to the last trend we identified is really the fact that built heritage in cities are increasingly brought back to citizens through new open public spaces. This trend has also accelerated during the pandemic in a time when people were looking for, I should say, are still looking for open air places to meet safely. And such popular open spaces are very often located in front of heritage buildings. Think about the city where you live and try to think of where people meet outside. It's very often in front of opera houses, for example, or key heritage buildings. And such open air spaces are becoming playgrounds for people and sometimes stages for artistic performances. We saw many examples through Cultural Heritage in Action, and I think that's definitely a key trend. If you would like to hear more about those trends, we invite you to read a new document that we released a couple of months ago that is called Cultural Heritage as a Catalyst for Cities and Regions, and we will share the link in the chat. So I will now stop with my slides and welcome 3 guests. We have with us one host of an online peer learning visit, 1 participant to one of those visits, and 1 external expert who brought additional knowledge during those visits. So I would like first to welcome Marie-Claire Dangerfield from the Rotterdam City Archive. Hello, Marie-Claire, nice to see you again.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. So we invited you because in May you hosted an online peer learning visit, and I wanted us to debrief a little bit together. First, can you explain very briefly, because we already saw the video, what's the online visit focused on?
So our visit was on, I had to write it down, data collection and community archiving with citizens for long-term preservation of cultural heritage. So, yeah.
So to select hosts of peer learning visits, we launched an open call, and you responded. And why was it important for you to share this local experience and local knowledge?
So I think there were a couple of reasons. One, myself and Simona, she's the director of Dig It Up, were very enthusiastic about sharing our practice because it was quite empowering for different communities, and they could record their own history in a way that was appropriate to them and using words that they wanted to be used. And combining the City Archive and a grassroots organization was really important. And we also, it was a technical solution as well. And that was something that we knew would translate very well to an online peer visit because it was COVID, and we were trying to maintain the enthusiasm for it. So we knew we could inspire others to take part in the practice, and yeah, we could do that via an online peer visit. So it was really important to us that we could share with a wider European community.
So you shared with a wider European community, but I have the impression that you also received a lot of input from the participants. Yeah. So a couple of months after this visit, can you summarize what you learned from the comments or the questions that were asked to you?
Yeah. So the peer visit itself was absolutely fantastic. We weren't expecting so much interaction and so many questions. I think we could have gone for longer than 3 days, just having a chat and sharing experiences, because everyone has their own approach to this type of archiving. And so to combine the experiences of everyone was really, really useful. And it did help adjust how we were doing it in Rotterdam. And I know that other places emailed me and asked for tips and how to implement it themselves. So it was really, really useful.
Will you do things differently in the future regarding your local project, or has this visit been an opportunity to try different things, or maybe in the future?
So there were a couple of technical solutions that we hadn't been aware of that we were like, oh, we will investigate that. So that was really useful. We definitely want to continue what we're doing, but just expand it a little bit technically. So expand the data that we're taking in. And the point was to set it up so that Dig It Up could implement it without us being there. But we would still get the records at the end, or we would get into more conversations with a wider group of people. And that was really beneficial for us. That's the City Archive, yeah.
Okay. We have launched very recently a new call for host cities and regions for next year. So if we have colleagues listening to us now and are considering responding to this call, what would you tell them? Would you have a recommendation for them?
Definitely do it. It's a lot of work in the planning, but you know your method works. You know that it benefits you. And change is you can inspire change by very small actions. So if you go for the call and you go for the best practice, what you've done in your area can inspire others. And it's very, very easy for that sort of enthusiasm to be infectious. And that's really great, because what we learned from it was very beneficial for both ourselves and for everyone taking part.
Thanks a lot, Marie-Claire. Your enthusiasm is infectious as well. So it was a pleasure to see you again. And please stay with us. We are now moving to Namur in Belgium. And let me introduce you, Jean-Sébastien Misson. Jean-Sébastien, you manage the citadel of Namur, a citadel from the Middle Ages. And you attended one of our online visits, which was hosted by the city of Šibenik in Croatia. So I know we will share a couple of pictures just to have a clear idea of how the citadel of Namur looks like. And maybe one picture from the host city, from Šibenik, just for participants to understand. Yes, voilà. A beautiful example of a city that has turned ancient citadels into hotspots for culture. So, Jean-Sébastien, why did you decide to attend this peer learning visit hosted by the Croatian city of Šibenik?
Bonjour à tous depuis la Belgique. I'll be talking in English, rest assured. In Namur, as you can see, just like in Šibenik, we have a very rich cultural heritage, both in town, outside of town, and surrounding villages, and of course at the junction of our two main rivers, the Citadel. And my team and I have been carrying out several projects through the 10 past years, restoration, a new museum, new tourist signalization, so several projects for several millions of euros funded by the region. And I was curious to see how things were done in Šibenik, especially regarding the development and the integration of and the restoration of a cultural events venue outside, because we're starting a new project. It's the next slide. This open air theater and stadium from 1910 will be undergoing restoration in the coming years, and we are in the midst of designing the project. And so I was curious to see how Šibenik did theirs.
So the opening of the open air theater is very much in line with the trends that we have identified. Yeah.
Yes.
And what did you learn concretely?
Well, let's say three things I take out from attending the peer visit is the diversity of the program that the Šibenik team sets up, trying to reach a very broad public all year round. Will be a bit more difficult in Northern Europe considering the weather to have events all year round, but we are also trying to, inside the building, to develop new spaces to broaden the possibilities of use of this building for both outside and inside events, and also the diversity of events initiated both by the team in Šibenik, but also welcoming projects from the outside, but still being very much involved in organizing that program. So very diverse A second thing was the need for a very strong and dedicated team. You could feel the cohesion within the team of Šibenik from all their interventions during the visit. The team here is mostly directed for now towards for the restoration on one side and tourism on the other side. And we have to develop the event, cultural event part of the team. So we have to start discussing with our local authorities to, amp up the human power, the manpower for that part of our activity, because there's no use restoring a big building if you don't have the team to develop the events to take place in that building. And third thing that I took out, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to set it up here, but the Friends Club was very much talked about during the peer visit. So how local citizens were involved in that, in supporting the policies, and we'll need further contacts with Šibenik and other sites to know how they set it up, and if it's feasible to set it up here in them.
So I understand from what you just said that you will remain in touch with colleagues from Šibenik and from other cities.
Yeah, we haven't made an appointment yet. I haven't gotten the opportunity to share what I learned from the visit with colleagues and authorities that much, I must say. But next year will be very crucial and it will be the right time to come back and talk with Šibenik, maybe organize a private, one-on-one Zoom meeting with them to go more into details, discuss things get even more inspired by their project.
Thank you very much, Jean-Sébastien, for your testimony.
Yes.
And for those of you who would like to know more about Šibenik and especially about their Friends Club, so it's a very nice, management and financing scheme. I encourage you to check the videos we have produced on this topic. So let's now move to Berlin, and I would like to introduce you to Nils Scheffler. Nils, you are an urban advisor and you founded Urban Experts, and you advise public and private institutions on integrated, sustainable urban development and participatory processes. You attended several of those peer learning visits. So I would like to ask you if you have identified common trends and challenges during those 4 different visits. Are they going in the direction of the trends that we identified, or have you spotted additional ones? We would like to hear from you.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me. I must say the trends which you presented in the beginning are similar to what for me were like focal points during the peer learning visits I attended. So my trends or topics, as you also can call it, were particularly about participatory approaches and community engagement in dealing, but also in developing cultural heritage was really a key issue which really everybody worked on. Also, a trend I realized was building equal partnerships to cooperate and to collaborate on cultural heritage. And also what you mentioned was linking cultural heritage more strongly to other policy areas like social cohesion, community development or economic development. So it seemed to me that these are really key issues for many people who attended the peer learning visits and on which they want to work and exchange on with regards to cultural heritage. And I mean, Dig It Up in Rotterdam was presented, and I think there was a really good example for their community involvement and also to build up equal partnerships. So it was very interesting attending this one. And of course, with these fields, there are challenges. It's not easy to implement them. And in terms of participatory approaches and community engagement, it's particularly to the struggle to activate and involve participants, because you need time to organize this. you need stuff for this, and also in the beginning you need to build up trust that people really work with you and engage with you. So this is what we talked and discussed about. We shared the experience from the different partners, and so how you can deal with these challenges. Also, in terms of the equal partnerships, we figured out a big challenge is that there are different working cultures and working rhythm between the public administration, between civil society initiatives, between the culture sector, and you have to learn to deal with these differences because they exist, you cannot avoid them. And so how can you make a partnership really work, having these different working cultures and working rhythm? And it was also interesting, having all these discussions, how you can deal with that. And also for the partnerships and for community involvement, you need political support. So without the political support, it's very difficult to implement all this successfully, because for a certain extent, you need also financial resources for this. So also how to involve politicians is partly a challenge, politicians change and so on. So we discussed also how you can better involve constantly parties, politicians, decision makers, to get also then the support for the other topics.
Yeah, and I think you're so right on the importance of the political support. And I mean, we were very pleased to see that very often during those online peer learning visits, we were welcomed by the mayor of the city or the president of the region, and that they stayed for discussion. So I guess there is also interest, and it's easier for them not to travel, but to learn online with us. A last question for you, Niels. Do you have any tips for cities and regions on how to share best practices between them?
Well, I think very important is that people who participate in an exchange on good practices, that there's a common topic or a common challenge on which you would like to exchange and share, because only then everybody really brings in all his enthusiasm and his energy in terms of presenting the good practice, but also in participating and asking questions, because you really would like to get to know more about it. So it's really have a common topic, a common challenge on which you like to exchange on. And also, I think this was also very interesting to see, it's not that one city or one person is presenting his good practice case and that's it. I think it's important that everybody is sharing this good experience or it's interesting experiences that they have related to this common interest. So everybody can bring in something interesting, and this really has to be fostered and triggered. So it's not the one city presenting and the rest are just listening. Everybody can share something interesting, and this really is important also to do in a best practice exchange. And also my experience is a good practice exchange really needs a good preparation. And I think it was really well done by the team of Cultural Heritage in Action, which means you really need to clarify what are the participants interested in. So what do they really would like to know about? And so in this way, tell this then the organizing city so that they really can prepare this information, that they can get different stakeholders also presenting from their perspective how the good practice works. So I think this is also very important, a good preparation so that really the participants get the information what they're interested in. And also, I mean, because of the pandemic times, we had to do, unfortunately, just online sessions for the peer learning visits, but also, at least I figured out that also the online exchange has certain advantages. So I think what I learned here for a good practice exchange, definitely use the online and offline tools. So they really can complement each other well. So use the offline meetings really for an interactive part, but when it's whether just about to share some information, presentations, this really can be done beforehand, like a week before in an online session, so that you really have then more time when you physically meet to really exchange on visiting places, on talking to different stakeholders. So these would be my main tips on how to best share practices.
Thanks a lot, Niels. Thank you, Marie-Pierre, Jean-Sébastien, and Niels again. And I think that now I hope that we managed to motivate all participants to respond to our call for good practices and to respond to our call to host peer learning visits. And I will now give the floor to my colleagues Cécile and Irene. They will tell you more about next steps for the project and future opportunities.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you, our guest speakers, for our insight about the project. Now we would like to introduce something we have been working on during the summer. It's a new publication that gathers content from the first phase of Cultural Heritage in Action that Julie has been presenting before, mainly the 32 case studies from our catalog of good practices and the 10 online peer learning visits that were hosted in 2021. But there is a twist because the publication is interactive and only accessible online. So we are very proud and happy to present to you cultural heritage in cities and regions, challenges and trends throughout Europe. We have organized the publication around main challenges faced by European cities and regions when it comes to cultural heritage, namely inequality and social inclusion, rapid urbanization, changes in governance systems, and even climate change. Cultural heritage, as has been mentioned by our speakers so far, is key to solving these challenges as it encourages experimentations, stimulates participation and responsibility, and rewards collaboration among different sectors. So European cities and regions are already making the most of cultural heritage to address these challenges and have found innovative, impactful, and inspiring solutions that work on the ground. So in the publication, you can read about these challenges and solutions in an easy and interactive way. But if I have not convinced you yet, I will let Irene tell you 3 reasons why you really need to read this publication.
Indeed, we have prepared 3 main reasons why you should read this web publication, which is interactive. The first one is because of adaptation. We have included 20 case studies that refer to the 3 different challenges that Cecile just mentioned. Secondly, it's because of a question of comprehension. In the publication, we have included the future trends when it comes to climate change, digitalization, and dissonant heritage. Therefore, it's a way for cities and regions to understand the problems that are upcoming and how to develop them at local level. And thirdly, it's a question of adaptation, because we have included from each of the case studies in the web publication top tips from the projects in which you can refer to and develop in your own cities. And also we have developed a series of 10 steps towards sustainable development at local level that you can introduce and implement in your own cities and regions. And now, before letting you dive deep into our web publication, we would like to show you how easy navigable it is with this video.
After introducing you to the fantastic content we have produced for you to learn about cultural heritage in cities and regions, we'd like to show you how to navigate our brand new publication. This is a starter page, which includes at the top a bar where you can easily access its different parts. By accessing our map, you can find our different good practices divided by colors in reference to the challenge they belong to. If I go to the first challenge, inequality and social exclusion, I can read all about it by also clicking in this arrow and learn about the solutions developed in different European cities and regions when it comes to that issue. For example, in the city of Budapest. Budapest 100 is one of the good practices that is included in our catalogue, and it refers to a 2-day festival that happens in the city to celebrate its built heritage. I can scroll down to read more about it, and I can also take a look to the how and the management of the project. We have also included some top tips that are relevant for all European cities and regions across Europe. Here, in more info, you can check the actual good practice that is included in our catalogue, the report from a peer learning visit, and a short documentary we have produced for it. And talking about audiovisual material, you can also have a look at the video from Budapest 100 or even listen to a podcast while you're cooking. This web publication is easily navigable, and we hope you find it as inspiring as we do to learn about the challenges and possible solutions when it comes to cultural heritage in cities and regions throughout Europe. Thank you so much for your attention.
And if you have participated in one of our peer learning visits, you should know that we are worldwide famous because of our icebreakers. And for that, we have prepared a short icebreaker for you to try the web publication right now. If you see the chat on the right side, there is a tab that reads Slido. And we have prepared there 3 different questions in a sort of a hunting game that you have to look for the answers in the web application itself. It's as simple as opening the link that my colleague Miguel has dropped in the chat in Hopin. And then you will find the first question.
The first question reads, which of these topics is not tackled by Cultural Heritage in Action? And there you have 3 choices: adaptive reuse of heritage buildings, recovery and resilience through cultural heritage in a post-pandemic world, and participatory financing for sustainable interventions on cultural heritage climate. So which one do you think is the one that is not part of the project? You can just click on the answer and send via the chat. And we'll give you a bit of time, and then we'll move on to the second question.
Nice. I'm already seeing the answers in the screen. So 57% of participants think that recovery and resilience through cultural heritage in a post-pandemic world, that is a tongue twister, is the correct answer.
Weird, because it's actually recovery and resilience through cultural heritage in a post-pandemic world is actually a topic of Cultural Heritage in Action. But you might not know that because we have not presented it yet.
Indeed.
So let's move on maybe to the second question. The second question reads, which Finnish cities is included in the map of our web publication? And there are 2 Finnish cities included there: Vantaa and Tampere, Helsinki and Oulu, Espoo and Rovaniemi.
I think this question is an easy one
Yes.
because we've seen participants from Tampere and Vantaa already commenting in the chat.
So they know they are there.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that I sort of spoiled the question.
Still people are getting it. Yeah, the correct answer is Vantaa and Tampere. So we move on to the third question. Whose Voices from Eurocities is presenting the case studies from Central Scotland? Here there is a little exercise for you to do. You will need to go to the web publication and find the case study from Central Scotland first. And then find, as Irene presented in the video, the voice who's presenting it in the podcast. There is a little icon representing a podcast, and then you should find out whose voice is presenting Central Scotland case study. We see.
I see Anthony. It's hopefully running this one, unless our voice is really sharpened up. Yes, the correct question is Anthony, indeed. Only 50% of you knew that. Thank you so much for your answers. And now, Cecile, the floor is yours.
Yes, can we have the slides back? Thank you. So yeah, a bit of a spoiler before. I hope you had fun, even though with the little Slido quiz we have prepared, and that it made you want to discover even more the content of this web publication that we have produced together. And now I wanted to give you a bit of an insight into the future, what to expect next year, as we have an array of new opportunities coming up for cities and regions in Europe. But first of all, I wanted to tell you a bit more about the new themes that we will be working on as part of the project. We have decided to focus on 3 new topics because we want to reflect more the ongoing challenges faced by European cities and regions in the past years, but also to align better with the priorities from the European institutions, as you have heard from many speakers this morning. So the first topic we will focus on is recovery and resilience through cultural heritage in a post-pandemic world, and that was one of the proposals from the first question of the Slido quiz. But here what we want to do is to find out more about how cities and regions in Europe have faced the pandemic and are preparing the cultural heritage and culture sector for new challenges ahead. In an almost there post-pandemic world, we know cultural heritage has an important role to play in building back cities and regions better, and we want to find out how. So some of the key questions we have included here are: what are cities and regions, what have they learned from the pandemic crisis when it comes to cultural heritage management or cultural heritage governance? What have been the impacts of the pandemic crisis on the uses of cultural heritage building and public spaces? But again, how are digital tools integrated in development and management of cultural heritage projects and initiatives? The second topic we want to focus on is named A More Sustainable Cultural Heritage to Face the Climate Crisis. As you know, sustainable development has been discussed a bit everywhere already these past years, included in the cultural heritage field, but we would like to explore how cities and regions are adapting their local cultural heritage practices and initiatives to current changes in the climate, and also what we can learn from cultural heritage, be it tangible or intangible, on resilience and adaptation. So it is a fact that climate change is already degrading and changing our natural and cultural heritage, but it can also provide an opportunity to unlock the potential of cultural heritage to be a driver for a new green and sustainable development. So some key questions here for cities and regions to reflect on is how to ensure a sustainable urban and regional regeneration through cultural heritage by, for instance, developing a more sustainable cultural tourism in cities and regions. How are cities and regions making the most of cultural heritage to face future changes in the climate and adapt their local territories to new threats? And finally, one last theme, governance and financing, new roles for local and regional authorities. So local and regional authorities are increasingly aware of the importance to place citizens as actors rather than users of their territory. And in parallel, culture and cultural heritage have been at the forefront of citizens' participation and engagement, or they are good triggers to have citizens interested and willing to shape their environment in a co-designed manner. So some of the key questions we want to explore with this topic are: what are the new roles of local and regional authorities when it comes to supporting cultural organizations and stakeholders? How are cities and regions organizing participatory governance, community involvement, and co-design of policies linked to cultural heritage? Or again, what are the alternative sources of funding and new business models implemented at local level to deliver cultural heritage policies and initiatives? We want to explore these 3 topics in a series of peer learning activities to continue the exchange process that has started in the first phase of the project, together with representatives of European cities and regions. And you already had testimonies from our guest speakers about this peer learning exchange. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we want to grow our community of practice and provide opportunities for cities and regions to learn from each other and improve their local and regional policies and initiatives, or even start new ones that have proved efficient somewhere else. So how do we do this? The project has developed a methodology of peer learning that has proved very efficient for this exchange to happen, as you have heard just before. And in 2022, we will organize a series of, hopefully, on-site and also online activities tailored to the needs of European cities and regions. On-site, we hope to be able to organize 5 peer learning visits in European cities and regions in the course of 2022. Maybe I will explain a bit what are peer learning visits for those who are joining the Cultural Heritage in Action program. Peer learning visits are opportunity for experts, decision makers, and stakeholders to visit another city or another region and see firsthand how it has successfully implemented policies and projects. Visits will be organized in the framework of the Cultural Heritage in Action project by host cities and regions in cooperation with members of the Cultural Heritage in Action project. And in each visit, we will like to welcome 25 participants, more or less, who will be selected through calls in 2022. and they will be able to attend the visit between February and November next year. The first call for participants will be out in January, so you should be prepared and let us know if you want to be kept in the loop. But we also have at the moment an open call for potential hosts, as Julie mentioned previously. So do not hesitate to apply if you think your city or region has interesting practices and policies to share with other cities and regions on the three mentioned topics. The deadline for this call is end of this year, December 2021. Maybe we can also share the link to the call in the chat. Then to continue the peer learning visit experience after the visit, a number of online activities will be organized with the host, the participants, and the experts. Some of these online activities will also be open to a larger group of interested stakeholders so we can expand and share the knowledge even further. To keep in touch with our calendar of activities and to not miss any deadline, you should subscribe to our newsletter and visit the CHA website. In the next slide, you can see the links. On the website, you will find all the useful information on how to apply to our calls. As I said, we have at the moment 2 calls open, the one mentioned just now about peer learning visit host, but also a call for good practices for cities and regions who want to be featured in our catalog of good practices. We have now more than 30 already, but there is space for more, and we want to hear from you. So you should send us your good practice by the end of the year as well, if you think that's interesting for other cities and regions to know about it. If you missed something, or if we have not explained it well enough, or if you still have a burning question unanswered, you can also join us at 12 during one of our networking sessions, the Cultural Heritage in Action FAQ, to find answers to your questions. Or you can also contact us directly at the address Cultural Heritage in Action at Eurocities.eu. And now I give the floor back to Nathalie for some words of conclusion.
Thank you, Cécile and Irene, for this very clear presentation of what cities and regions can benefit from the Cultural Heritage in Action project. So now, if you wonder, do I go for lunch or I join the networking sessions? My answer is clearly, please stay with us because there are 3 very interesting networking sessions. Session 1 will focus on Cultural Heritage in Action project. So it's really, an FAQ, if you want, session, if you want to know more about what Cécile and Irene have just presented. It will be a session run by Cécile from Eurocities and by Teresa and Rayan from ERIN. Then there's a second session, which is here from Cultural Heritage in Action Cities and Regions. And here you will have the possibility to discuss more of the peer learning stories together with Marie-Claire from Rotterdam, with Jean-Sébastien from Namur, and with Niels Scheffler, our urban expert. This session is run by Irene from Eurocities and Pierre from ACE. And session 3 will be about sharing your own cultural heritage stories together with Pauline from Eurocities. And here you can visit this session if you want to, inspire others with your stories. That will last only 30 minutes, so you can still have lunch after the sessions. And once, you've had lunch, or even during, it's really as you prefer and how you prefer to organize your time, we will organize a digital expo. So both for the networking sessions and for the digital expo, you can find them on the left-hand side of Hopin, and you will click on them to access the different networking sessions and then the different parts of the expo. So what is the digital expo about? It's about finding more about the Cultural Heritage in Action project, the results, the outputs. It's also to read and listen and watch some of the results from the peer learning exchanges. And it's open the entire afternoon until 4. So when you have a break, when you have a moment, you can, go back at your own pace and find the booth, the exhibition booth that is interesting for you. So there are 4 different booths. One is entitled Cultural Heritage in Action, ready for the Oscars. So here It's about the playlist, the video playlist of the Cultural Heritage in Action project. There are 39 videos, so really a lot to, look at if you want to, get inspired from other cities and other regions. The second booth is actually about the interactive publication that Irene and Cecile presented earlier. You can read it, watch it, and listen it at your own rhythm. The third booth is about the catalog of case studies that we've already mentioned several times during the event. Again, you can scroll, look at it, dive, into some of the practices. And the fourth and last digital exhibition booth is about the thematic analysis, cultural heritage, a powerful catalyst for cities and region that Julie has already mentioned earlier. So this is for you to dive into the project, understand better the results. The entire afternoon is open for the Digital Expo. We're running slightly behind time, so I will not, prolong my conclusion, but I would like to say thank you to all speakers, to all participants. Thank you to the entire team at Eurocities that has made this event possible. So especially Cecile, Julie, Irene, Miguel, and Pauline, a huge well done, because we all know how difficult those online events are to organize. So big thank you for all the efforts and all the preparation. So a huge thank you to all, and take care, enjoy the networking session, and enjoy the Digital Expo. Thank you.